Hey, it's Juck. At number one, the most beautiful uniform in all of sport. If they brought back the gray stripes, this thing is so far out in front of everybody, you can't touch it. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. Hey, it's Chuck, and welcome in. Appreciate you so much for joining me. Want to shout out our buddy Trent. One of our Juck guys put together the new snazzy graphics there for our intro. Thank you so much for that, Trent. I think that's really cool. I'm not used to having such high-tech stuff, man. Did you see the graphics? That was really cool. But obviously, we've got to talk today about the Buckeyes, about our viewing windows on Saturday, as we always do, go over our picks. I got a couple of your comments to get to, and then we want to talk about, I don't like to do predictions for the game. What I like to do is ask questions, and I've got 8 questions for the game that we ask pregame, and then when we do the postgame show, we get the answers to those questions, and we go over them that way. But Saturday, we are also going to be streaming at least a chunk of the primetime game. So we're going to be streaming starting at 7 for the Buckeyes game. And there's also going to be obviously other games going on during that time period. Florida, LSU, Texas A&M, Notre Dame. So we'll keep up on those together. If that interests you, pop in, hang out, watch the game with us. And I think it's always a good time to watch the game with you guys. So I will be here when we get to the post-game show, or when it's time to do that. We're going to switch over to a different stream, and we'll do the live post-game show because that has a different audience. Not everybody wants to hang out during a game, and if they see that, they're not going to pop in. So we will switch over, but that'll be fun. So pop in starting at 7 o'clock on Saturday. We're going to be here streaming and talking about the Buckeyes game live, watching it together, keeping up on the other primetime games, which pretty cool slate, man. Pretty cool slate. And we will get to our picks for the biggest games of the week and our viewing slots. We always like to go over what we're going to watch at 12, what we're going to watch at 3:30, what we're keeping out for in each time slot, and the games of interest to me. I like to go over my rooting interest for games. As a Buckeye fan, I generally kind of slant my rooting interest as to how I feel as an Ohio State fan, what I want the most as far as, the biggest competition, who I like to see knocked off, and some storylines that always interest me. So we'll go over all that. But let's get to the Buckeyes and the Bobcats, the Battle of Ohio's. After this game, we are a quarter of the way through the regular season, which always smacks me in the face when I put it in those terms. We just started. I don't like to be a quarter away through the regular season already, but going to be fun at the Shoe, a night game. We get to see the red lights. Now, I was at the previous night game, the Tennessee game. I didn't get to see how that looked on TV. And I never watched that back, the TV copy, because we were rolling straight into Oregon. I just watched the All-22 from that Tennessee game. But I'm excited to see what that looks like on TV. Excited to hear back from some of you guys how the experience was at Ohio. Obviously not a huge, big-time opponent for a night game. And, of course, we've got things jamming in the Shoe kind of a new way, right? I think that the band playing through the speakers has been maybe the biggest thing. That and not so many like commercial breaks on the field. So curious to see from you guys when we do kind of the wrap up next week, talking about the game in the comments, how that experience was for you compared to other night games you've been to at the Shoe. In a bit of funny news, Zion Grady, Jarquez Carter just lost their black stripes the other day. And I just find this hilarious, man. Like, this tradition is cool. It adds camaraderie. It gives freshmen coming in kind of a big time goal, a competition, who can lose it first. And then you get that formal acceptance into the brotherhood when you lose the black stripe. You get CJ Barnett going nuts. Everybody gives a speech. It's cool, urban tradition, and it's obviously been continued through Ryan Day, and I like that. But I got to say, man, Jarquez Carter, as a true freshman, literally playing in the Texas game in the fourth quarter in the first game of his college career, the second to last possession of the game in a 14-7 game. That's not a member of the team yet. What are we joking here, man? We got to wait a whole nother game for that. How about Zion Grady getting a sack last week? He's out there playing, and this guy's just now getting his stripe off. I don't know what we're doing, man. We got to pick up the pace a little bit when you got a guy trusted to go play in the Texas game, and he's still got a black stripe on. Come on now. I got a soft spot, man. Maybe it's because I just love Jarquez Carter, but that seems like a little excessive here. If we are trusting this guy in the Texas game and he's still got a black stripe on. Anyway, let's start with a little pregame of the big matchup. Buckeyes now a 30.5 point favorite. They were a 55-point favorite last week against Grambling. Ohio, about a middle of the pack team when you go from 1 to 136, and they're a good MAC team. They're a good MAC team that just beat West Virginia. They lost at Rutgers 36-33. They've got a quarterback. This is a team that could potentially sneak up and get you. And I was just talking yesterday, back in the day, these out-of-conference games like this, Ohio State a lot of times would come in and give a relatively sleepy performance, not really dominate like we would want them to, and get up by 21, kind of take their foot off the gas, run out the clock. That is not what we saw with Ryan Day last week. And the team looked unbelievably disciplined, focused, and just ready to dominate. And then Ryan Day and the coaching staff did not consider at all taking their foot off the gas. They told the second and the third stringers to come in and said, your job is to score. And they let them go play the game, which I love. That's what the money's for. These teams get a lot of money to come in and play this game. Let your guys go get better. And I loved what he did there. I suspect we're going to see the same thing. Now, Ohio, a better team, but still a very overmatched team. And the way we've seen this Buckeyes team play the first two games, I expect we see the same thing. I think the Buckeyes will be rolling. I think they will be on point, focused, hungry. It's got a feel of a bunch of hungry young guys, and I really like that. Of course, Ohio, a quality quarterback with Parker Navarro, who I'm sure you've heard a lot about this week. They've got quality MAC receivers. They've got a quality MAC running back, but MAC is the key here. It's a good team. It's a good MAC team. West Virginia, yeah, they beat them. West Virginia has like 70 new players under Rich Rod. Things are not humming yet at West Virginia. We'll talk about them and Pitt in the backyard brawl in a little while. But what are we going to see on offense? I suspect it'll be a little more balanced than it was last week. Obviously, last week, coming off the Texas game, you wanted to let Julian air it out a little bit. You wanted to get that passing game humming. What Ryan Day said in his press conference on Wednesday was a little bit of a lack of an explosive run game. We saw an excellent passing performance, but he feels like explosion in the run game is lacking. So I think that was a bit of a tip-off as to what we're going to see the emphasis be tomorrow against the Bobcats. I think we are going to see all four backs in C.J. Donaldson, Jimmy DePeoples, Bo Jackson, and Isaiah West. And I expect that this will be, in the final warm-up before conference play. It seems like heading into this game, they trust C.J. Donaldson the most, kind of as the number one back. But if it's the explosive running game that Ryan Day's after, C.J. Donaldson, not really it, though a really good blocker and pass pro. I'll note that after C.J. Donaldson fumbled right down by the 10-yard line, he did not get pulled out of the game. And the reason he didn't get pulled out of the game is because they wanted him for pass pro on the very next play. He picked up a perfect block and touchdown pass. So I do expect to continue to see him kind of being the lead back as we start tomorrow. I think despite some people thinking that the Bo Jackson fumble, in Ryan Day's words at the press conference, that Bo's in the doghouse, we got the over-under set at 8.5 carries for Bo Jackson. I'm taking the over in the game, and we'll talk a little bit more about the running game when we get into our questions for the game. Now, in the passing game, will we see more tempo? We talked about that. Ryan Day talked about that on Tuesday, using it as a weapon. And I hope we get to see more of that this year than we did last year. It certainly looks like Julian Sayin is well suited for tempo. They looked really good doing it. So I think tomorrow while I don't expect Julian Sand to be as sensational as he was last game, I don't think it's going to be far off. And but I think the focus going to be on getting the running game humming before that Washington game. The Buck talked yesterday about Kenyatta and sacks, and I watched the All 22 again, and I gotta say, it just does not look like against Grambling you had a lot of opportunities. It didn't look like you had a lot of opportunities. Most of their passing game was quick game. The ball was out of his hands really fast. And then in the 3-down front on the 3rd down with Caden Curry in the middle, the 2 ends and Arvell spying, it just wasn't that's just not very conducive to sacks. And I just don't think that we're going to see a whole lot of that against Ohio either. And I don't think it's anything to be concerned about myself. So I know there are some people concerned about it. I'm not particularly worried about it. The main thing is this defense is looking excellent against the pass. They're looking excellent against the pass. And as long as that's working, the sack totals are the sack totals. If they want to play quick game, it is what it is. If they got a running quarterback, this defense with the 3 men down, Caden Curry in the middle, and Arvell spying seems to be working really well. And I think we'll see more of that tomorrow. You get a guy like Parker Navarro. This guy could potentially, try to elongate plays and run himself into sacks. We might see some of that tomorrow, but this isn't something that I'm concerned about. If we go this year with, the sack leader ends up being Arvell Reese, and that's the way you want to rush the passer, like that's just what it is. I don't care where it comes from. Bottom line, Kenyatta Jackson playing really good, despite the lack of sacks. He's playing really good. We saw a lot of different things against a lot of different formations against Grambling. Curious to see if we're going to see as many against Ohio. I suspect we will. For one, we saw Peyton Pierce really early, like second series, rotating with Sonny and Arvell. Sometimes it was Sonny coming out. Sometimes it was Arvell coming out. On the defensive line, the second possession, we saw Caden McDonald out, Will Smith in. We saw very early the dime defense with Devin Sanchez in. We saw the 3-man down package with Arvell spying. We saw the bear defense or the penny set. We saw Caden Curry at nose with Arvell not spying and 2 linebackers in the 3-man down set. Like, we saw so many different sub packages against Grambling. I mean, it's clear that Matt Patricia is not trying to hide anything. He's trying to put everything out there. So they got to prepare for everything. They, like everybody moving forward. And I don't know how you do that because they've done so much. So I love this defense. I think it's really exciting. I can't wait to see it again. Peyton Pierce was the leading tackler in game number 1. I'm sorry, in game number 2. Arvell game number 1. I think it goes back to Arvell tomorrow against Ohio. I think that the starting defense will be out there a little longer, and we're going to see Arvell rack up some tackles and have another big game tomorrow, which I cannot wait for. I do think we're going to see a few more sacks because this kid's going to run himself into it. I'll say 4 sacks for tomorrow. I want to talk about Riley Pettijohn. Riley Pettijohn, Ryan Day talked about in the press conference. I think he's certainly earned himself some more playing time, but what does it come at the expense of? I suspect him to flash again tomorrow, and it's a good problem to have, obviously, but we'll talk about him in our questions here. So let's get to our questions. We'll start with the running game. So questions heading into Ohio. Number 1, clearly we had a standout, most impressive back against Grambling, right? We had a guy that stood out as the most explosive guy, which is what Ryan Day wants to see. Now, no matter who that was, question number 1 is, will we see another back stand out as the guy, the explosive guy against Ohio? Or do we see, a couple of guys with pretty good performances, but nobody really pops like that? Because question number 2 is, will James Peoples have his best game yet? Had 2 games, not been too great so far, but we got to imagine that James Peoples, who is a guy that plays with a chip on his shoulder, and I think plays his best with a chip on his shoulder, these guys see everything. And it would have been impossible for James Peoples not to have seen the buzz this week about Bo Jackson. And this guy's a competitor. He is a guy who probably, assumed coming into this year, coming into spring, he had a huge opportunity to be the guy. And now here we are 2 games into it. And Bo did what he did. He heard it all. I expect we're going to see a guy who is digging deep, playing with pride. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see James have a really big game here. But no doubt about it, he's going to come out motivated. And I hope he really shows out. It'll be really fun to see if all of a sudden we come out of this game and it's like, there we go, man. James Peoples showed out. All right, to the offensive line. Question number 3. Do we see Ethan Onyanwa rotating as much as we have at guard with Tegra Shabola, the only starting position where we've got a guy rotating? And Tegra played really good. Ethan played better than he did game 1. So what do we see here? Is Tegra going to earn more snaps, or are we going to see Ethan continue to split that with him as we move forward? And then we can just go to question number 4. Phil Daniels, man. Will Phil Daniels have another performance like he did the first 2 games? Because it's kind of becoming apparent that the 3 years of eligibility Phil Daniels has left at Ohio State are not going to be utilized. This guy is just continuing to impress. Big, strong, nasty. And honestly, they're just part of being an offensive lineman. And a lot of guys just either have it or they don't naturally. And it's just an innate understanding of leverage and how to win a battle. And Phil Daniels just has it. The guy is so damn good. And what an awesome acquisition. Remember, a guy that came in, we thought was going to be, okay, he's coming in to be a starter at tackle. And then all the reports are, no, he's actually going to be a guy who needs another year or so. And it seemed like that's how it was going. And then he just accelerates. The starting right tackle, playing out of his mind. I cannot wait till we see him play again against another really good team. But this guy, we're talking about a guy who is just elevating big time. And I'm really excited about Phil Daniels. Austin Saravold also playing really good so far. So really excited about this offensive line. I think we will see them gel more and see this running game pick up. Number 5, Max Clare. Max Clare, obviously, tight end number 2, ranked on all the preseason Mackey Award stuff. Coming in, we've seen 2 total catches by Max Clare. Now, one of them was a really good catch. We saw an awesome catch in the spring game, an awesome attempted catch in the spring game. We know he's got the skills to do that. What are we going to see out of him game 3? Are we going to see a potential breakout game? Did they try to get his confidence going before you head into conference play? I think you just might. But when it comes to blocking, he's not been great. And when it comes to snaps, he's never going to play a ton of snaps because Will Kazmarek is a guy who is just honestly, like Keenan said in the offseason, the best blocking tight end in the country. He looks unbelievable. So Jelani Thurman also picking up his blocking game. He looks really good as well. We know how talented Max Clare is and could potentially be one of the best weapons in college football at the tight end spot. Are we going to see a breakout game from him? I think it's time to get it rolling, get his confidence going. I wouldn't be surprised if he played more than like the 15 or 17 snaps he's been playing to try to get that going. All right, let's go to the defensive line. Interesting stuff here. Pretty consistent, really good play from the starters. Highs and lows from a couple of guys. On the inside, Ty Malone, Will Smith Jr. Ty Malone seems to be mental stuff. He sometimes takes himself out of his gap trying to make a play. And we saw him miss that tackle because he got himself out of position. And then at times we see Will Smith Jr. kind of get muscled out of position. He's a little bit smaller and he's not making mental mistakes. He's just, losing some battles here and there. But also both of them made plays in that game as well. So are we going to see either of those two put a full game together? Or do we see Jarquez Carter, the freshman, start getting a little bigger load this week and potentially eat more into Ty Malone's snaps as we move forward? I wouldn't be surprised if we do. Number 6, we've got that second crop of defensive ends with Logan George, CJ Hicks, and Zion Grady. Logan George about to make his debut. How does he fit in here? When we look at how Patricia is using the defensive ends right now, the top three, Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Bo Atkinson, we're seeing them all pop in and play a lot of three tech. And when we look at this next three, Logan George, CJ Hicks, Zion Grady, Logan George, it would seem, is the best fit to do what those three are doing. He can play inside. We saw it at Idaho State. He's a little bit bigger. Is he the one who emerges as the fourth guy out of that crew? Or do we see maybe a different role and a different package where maybe he doesn't play as much and it's Hicks or Grady playing outside? Going to be interesting to see how they play that here with Logan George. Is he being used in the same role, in the same way that we're seeing Kenyatta, Curry, and Bo Atkinson being used, moving inside? Number 7, I don't think this would be a fair list without putting Riley Pettijohn on here. What we saw was not just when he was making great plays, him flashing, but it was a near flawless game. He was in perfect position, perfect pursuit the entire time he was in there. And he absolutely deserved the defensive player of the game, which is amazing for a kid playing his first game at Ohio State. He's certainly a future first-team All-American material. We talked about how he's kind of blocked. You've got a 3-man linebacker rotation already with Arvell, Sonny, and Peyton Pierce. Arvell and Sonny, you can't raise the bar with him. You can't raise the bar with Peyton. You can't upgrade the talent. So it just feels like he's blocked. However, if he plays again like he just did, I don't know if you can justify not putting him on the field, even though you might not be able to raise the bar, because he's earned it. And if he's playing as good as Peyton and as good as Sonny, Arvell, a different story because he's utilized a little different. But I don't know that he doesn't crack himself a rotation. And I don't know that they don't choose to go to more 3 linebacker sets if linebacker is such a strength on your team. And then if you're going with 3, then you're rotating 4. You know, they're going with 2 a lot now. They're rotating 3. Put another one on the field and rotate 4. It seems to be the strength of your front 7 more so than your defensive line. I don't know, man. The guy might just be that good. And it'll be exciting to see if he can show that again. Because I get the feeling that Matt Patricia is a guy willing to adapt. And if he sees that again, we just might see Riley be able to elevate into some more playing time this year, even though it looked like he's just blocked by 2 potential first rounders. The guy's exciting, man. He's super exciting. Number 8, and I know this is boring, but punt return, man. Like Ryan Day called a red flag area when Dylan asked him the other day. And we've talked about how puzzling it is for a guy who seemingly can figure everything else out in college football and run it at the very top of college football. Like at this point, I don't know how he doesn't just care. Like if I can just get somebody, one guy back there who can fair catch the ball and not let it dribble inside the 5-yard line, not even return it. Like that's what I'm going to do. Just one guy. But again, he brought up 5 different guys. I think it looked like Bryson Rogers would be a really good option after the return we saw in the fake fair catch, but he wasn't one of the 5 guys that he mentioned. So who's it going to be? I don't know. Sounds like maybe Brandon Innes. I don't care. But are we going to see a game with flawless punt returning, right? Flawless punt returning where you field every punt you should, whether it's returned or not, and you don't get yourself pinned back unnecessarily. I think we should. I'm hoping we will. How about punter? Last question. Nick McClarty, Joe McGuire. Joe McGuire is the starter. Ryan Day said it again. Do we see McClarty get some run? Do we start to see maybe the 2 of these guys getting used at different points in the game, depending on the situation? Is McClarty improving with his miss hits, which is his problem? Guy has been, hitting punts. When he gets a hold of it, it's a boomer. Or do you stick with what you know, relatively easy peasy, safe little blooper leg Joe McGuire, who can usually pinpoint stuff, but against Texas wasn't great until the final one. So those are our questions. We will obviously answer those questions as we always do in the post-game show. Now, let's get to our lineup as we always do in our viewing windows, games I'm interested in, and our picks of the week in the biggest games of the week. And we'll start with Fox Big Noon. And I'm really excited for this one, just even if I want to, tune in for a couple of plays, right? Because we've got this temporary stadium at Northwestern, which obviously we talked about last year, guys. I think it's really cool, but it is hilarious that Big Ten games are being played here. So they tore down Ryan Field and they're building new Ryan Field where the old one was. They needed a temporary stadium. They built it right outside their new facility, which is right on Lake Michigan. And this tiny little thing that juts out into the lake here is so cool. And I was hoping that we would be able to see a big game here at one point, and we've got it tomorrow. Big Noon is televising a game from this little stadium here as Oregon comes in to play Northwestern. And also, if you haven't seen Oregon, this is a good chance to watch them. They're only a 4-touchdown favorite, 27.5 points. I think they cover this easily, but I'm tuning in to watch a little bit of Dante Moore, to watch a little bit of DeCorian Moore, check in on Oregon as they are my number 2 team in the country, and see what this stadium looks like full with a team that everybody wants to see. It's going to be really cool. By the way, Jurion Dickey, who was suspended from the team, it's a wide receiver, former 5-star at Oregon, who was expected to be a big-time dude, obviously, at some point. Some of the Oregon fans were telling me last year that Jeremiah Smith built a lot like Jurion Dickey, no better than Jurion Dickey. Apparently, that's not going to be the case. He is now off the team for good, going to junior college. So we're going to start off at our noon window, definitely checking out that game. Oregon at Northwestern at the little stadium. And we'll take Oregon minus 27.5. Of course, we got the Big Ten SEC showdown as Wisconsin travels down to Alabama. Alabama, a 21-point favorite at home. Alabama whooped them up at Camp Randall last year when Wisconsin lost TVD, like in the first possession. I'm so disappointed in what's happened at Wisconsin under Luke Fickell, who is a guy that I got a lot of love for, and I was hoping the best for him at Wisconsin. He's got this schedule that's just unbelievable. Again, he gets his starting quarterback injured to start a season. It's just crazy. One thing he did in the offseason was get bigger, and he was really excited about that. Obviously, change the offense. We're going to go back to some classic Wisconsin stuff after making a really bad decision to start, trying to open it up and be something totally different instead of just being Wisconsin. I'll be rooting for the Badgers. I'll be rooting hard for them. I just don't see it happening, and I see Alabama covering that 21 relatively easily, and that's fine. It'll give the Alabama fans hope, and that's okay. I want them having hope. Then we go to Clemson at Bobby Dodd in Atlanta, taking on Georgia Tech. Clemson, a 3-point favorite. Clemson obviously been very underwhelming so far, losing to LSU to start, then halftime down 16-0 against Troy. Embarrassed as I am, this was one of my picks to be in the national championship game. Ton of returning production. It seemed like they had everything ready to go to start the season the way they have. Very uninspiring. Is there any part of me that thinks they're going to come out now against a really tough opponent? Georgia Tech just went out, beat Colorado. This is a team that just seems like now they're always ready under a stud coach in Brent Key, a beast quarterback in Haynes King, who will do whatever it takes to win. Ultimately, I think Clemson out-talents them, but I don't have high hopes that Clemson turns this around and ends up being a serious threat in the playoffs, like I previously thought they would be, and technically should be. They just don't got it, man. They just don't got it. So I'll take Clemson minus the 3, but I don't feel good about Clemson this year anymore. Now, not a game that we're playing, but Oklahoma going to Temple, which could be interesting to tune into in the noon game just for a few, to watch a little more of John Mateer as they're going to play at Lincoln Financial Field, the Eagles Field in Philadelphia. And John Mateer obviously jumped up the Heisman leaderboard after that Michigan game, and everybody got to see him. Not only a really exciting player, fun to watch, but a really likable guy. So definitely rooting for him this year to continue his success as Oklahoma, with a really tough schedule, can play spoiler for a lot of the SEC teams, which I like. Then we move on to the 3:30 slot. And in the 3:30 slot, USC, man, look, everybody's telling us USC's that dude. They beat a couple tomato cans. People are getting excited. Now, USC, to be quite honest, in my post-spring power ratings, USC, my number 5 team in the Big Ten. And the reason I've been so high on USC is because, number one, Lincoln Riley really is a winner. Historically, he is a winner. These crappy teams have been the blip on the radar. He's now got a ton of support. He's now got a good defensive staff. And he's got the one thing in the Big Ten that, if you have, seems to be the differentiating factor. If you play in the Big Ten and you have excellent wide receivers, or at least good wide receivers, like Ohio State and Oregon and now Penn State and USC, it's almost like a cheat code. I don't know why this seems to be so hard for the rest of the Big Ten to acquire some talented wide receivers now that you can go out and buy them, but USC's got them. They got them. Maybe the second best set right now of wide receivers behind Ohio State. They're 20.5-point favorites at Purdue. Are you kidding me? They'll cover this easily. And I will tune in just to check them out. Jaden Mayava is looking really good. We know what the recruiting class looks like that they bought next year. And USC is going to be a competent power in the Big Ten. They're going to be someone we got to deal with. I got full confidence in that. I know a lot of people, I can't stand Lincoln Riley. I root for his demise, but I do think that things are turning around. This year, it looks like a team, I think, that can win 9 games, maybe 10. And I feel pretty good about them. Definitely good about them moving forward. Not good about them, but I'm pretty high on them. Unfortunately, I don't want to be, but I am. All right, we got the backyard brawl, which is always interesting, but not as interesting because West Virginia just lost to Ohio, and it's pretty clear Rich Rod needs a little time here. But Pitt, just a 7-point favorite, heading down to Morgantown. My buddy Ron James, a Pitt grad from Pittsburgh. I know he's rooting hard for the Panthers, so I'm gonna jump on board with him and root for Pitt here in this game. But Rich Rod needs some time. I think Pitt easily covers this spread. I will tune in for a little bit just to check it out. Might be interesting. Also, what might be interesting to check out, Texas Tech against Oregon State. I haven't seen Texas Tech yet this year. This roster, obviously, they went out and bought a unbelievable roster, and I want to see what these guys look like so far this year. So I'll probably tune into a little bit of that game. Then we got a real banger, the big-time banger. Georgia heads into Neyland South. Georgia, the line was down to Georgia -3. Now it's back to Georgia -4.5. A lot of people we have seen swing towards Tennessee on this game. A lot of momentum. And I remember when this happened last year, it was the first game Georgia went into Texas. And everybody was down on Georgia, high on Texas. All the money was coming in on Texas. And Kirby in that spot is unbeatable. He's unbeatable in that spot. You heard him after the game. I mean, the speech he gave after that game, when you doubt them like that, like, it's over. So Georgia all the way, despite the fact that I do think the Dogs are a program in slight decline. I don't think a whole lot of Tennessee this year. I do love the home field advantage at Neyland, but we've seen Dogs after Dogs team go up there and destroy them. This will be no different. The Dogs easily cover that 3. I think they might win by 17-21. And this is a team in Georgia that I don't feel great about anymore. I don't think Gunnar Stockton has got the goods, despite having the wide receivers. And their stud running back, Nate Frazier, 4 yards a carry their last game against Tomato Can U. So not feeling good about them overall, but in a spot like this, they shine. So dogs big. Then, of course, we got the South Florida Miami game. South Florida in Tampa, Miami in South Florida. Can our guy Alex Golish get his boys and his boys and his bulls to shock the world and win again against another ranked team, Miami, my number 3 team in the country right now? 17.5-point underdogs are those South Florida Bulls. They are for real. They're a really good team. I kind of feel like Miami's going to cover this game, but I've got to go with the Bulls. So I'm going to take them plus 17.5. All right, to the evening slot. We start off with our Buckeyes easy cover. And again, we'll be live here at the start of the game, maybe a little bit before the game. We've also got LSU hosting Florida, LSU minus 7.5. My rooting interest in this game, Florida. I want Florida to knock LSU off this pedestal they don't belong on. Florida has plenty of opportunities this year to fall off. I'd like to see a bounce back, play with their fans a little bit, get them excited, and then let them go lose some more games later on. But I do want to see LSU get upset in the Fake Death Valley by the Gators. That would be so sweet. But I will take, obviously, UF plus the 7.5. And then we got maybe the next biggest game of the weekend, and that is Texas A&M heading up in a return trip to Notre Dame. Notre Dame goes down there last year, wins. Notre Dame a 6.5-point favorite with Marcus Freeman and their freshman quarterback, CJ Carr, who lost barely to Miami. I think they win this game. I think they win it pretty handily, though I do really like Mike Elko and Texas A&M. This just feels like a spot to me where Notre Dame bounces back in a big way, and Jeremiah Love really runs all over them. Marcel Reed over at Texas A&M doesn't do much, and ultimately I think Notre Dame asserts some dominance here, though I will say I don't know that I would be too heartbroken if Texas A&M came up and beat them, and they were now 0-2 in their 2 biggest regular season games of the year, potentially with a playoff spot on the line should they lose one more down the stretch. In what is, again, they got USC this year, who I'm pretty high on. That game would be just enormous if they lose to Texas A&M. So I will take them to cover, but I think I'll be rooting for some chaos and rooting for Texas A&M. Anyway. All right, reviewing our picks again as we enter this week. We started off 3-5 week 1. Then we were 4-4 last week, bringing our total to 7-9. We were 16 games over 500 last year. So not too happy about that. We'll see if we can get it back to 500 and then start rolling as we go. But we've got Ohio State minus 30.5 over Ohio. We've got Alabama minus 21 over Wisconsin. We've got the Ducks minus 27.5 over Northwestern. We've got Clemson minus 3 at Georgia Tech. We are not going with the home dog. I don't like that pick as I'm sitting here thinking about it again, but we're sticking with it. We've got USC minus 20.5 over Purdue. We've got Pitt minus 7 over West Virginia. We've got Georgia minus 4.5 over Tennessee. We've got USF plus 17.5 to Miami. We've got Florida plus 7.5 at LSU. And we've got Notre Dame minus 7.5, Texas A&M. Now, as I'm reading these picks, I am sitting here like I am going against so much of the values that I have as a game. Like, all right, so let me just go over this real quick. Some of the picks I've got. Oregon is minus 27.5 going on the road to Northwestern. So going all the way to Northwestern, and I'm not going with the home dog in that game. Clemson goes down to Atlanta. I'm not going with the home dog, Georgia Tech, in that game. Purdue, another home dog to USC. I'm not going with them. West Virginia, another home dog. I'm not going with them. Tennessee, another home dog. I'm not going with them. LSU, a home favorite. I'm not going with them. Like, this is just not how I normally bet. But I got a really good feeling about this slate, to be quite honest. I really do. All right, friends, that'll do it for today's show. I do appreciate you so much for joining me. Tomorrow, 6:30-ish, 7-ish, we will be on to stream the evening games, and I hope you do join me. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll watch the Bucks, watch the other games, and have a good time. And then, of course, we'll roll into the postseason game. We've got the stripe out, which should look really cool tomorrow. We've got the red lights. Things are going to be hopping. If you're at the stadium, feel free to drop a comment in to the post-game show. Let us know how it was. I'll read it on the air, and can't wait to see you guys then. So appreciate you. Talk to you then. Jug'Em Bucks out.